welcome today. Barbara's going to read a little passage in order to give us a frame to listen to the gospel.
So here's the reading Father Tom mentioned that will help place today's gospel and his commentary on it in some kind of historical and cultural context. There's a tradition that about the year 30, the Romans took away from the Sanhedrin the right of capital punishment. This is why they could not put Jesus to death. While it is impossible to tell whether this arrangement was in effect when this woman was caught, the most credible reason for involving Jesus in this matter is to assume that the arrangement already existed. The trap is a dilemma. If Jesus urges that the woman be released, he clearly violates the Mosaic law and proves himself to be an irreligious person. He is certainly no prophet. If he orders that she be stoned, he is in trouble with the Romans, who have taken this right away from the Judeans. And here's the gospel according to John. Then each went to his own house, while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. But early in the morning, he arrived again in the temple area, and all the people started coming to him. And he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So, what do you say?" They said this to test him so that they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he bent down and wrote on the ground. And in response, they went away, one by one, beginning with the elders. So he was left alone with the woman before him. Then Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one, sir." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore."
Oftentimes when we hear this gospel proclaimed or when we're reading the gospel, we focus on the woman. We say, look what she's doing, and Jesus is trying to help her out. But the woman is not the issue. It's really what's going on between the scribes and the Pharisees and Jesus, their interplay. And as you heard so wonderfully, as Barbara get that little frame, that they were not interested in the woman. In fact, they used her, they manipulated her, and to what? To be in the plot in order to trick and trap Jesus. They never saw her, they didn't really care. They were just saying, we're going to manipulate the situation in and through her, and then we'll discard her later. Because they couldn't put her to death because of the law. So what was going on? Jesus was doing things and saying things. He was teaching, we heard him teaching today. They did not like what he was teaching. They did not like what he was doing. They felt it was a threat to their worldview. It was a threat to their understanding of life. And somehow he had to be discredited. Somehow he had to be brought to a sense of being a failure, or somehow they even had a feeling or a sense we have to destroy him because he's undermining who we are and what we're about. And so many ways that's going on today, and it's going on in every society throughout the history, this dynamic where I love to say, everyone's looking for, I gotcha moment, I gotcha. And so instead of looking for the good, instead of listening to the story, instead of really seeing a face and beginning to understand deeply that every human person is wounded. Every human person has wounds that they receive through the movement of life. And therefore, they are also dealing with some issues inside themselves. So many times when we go after a person, we basically are projecting onto them what we think that we need to destroy inside ourselves, or discredit inside ourselves. And so in this gotcha moment, what they're saying to Jesus, we want to trap you. We want to hurt you. We want you to fail, as I said. And that's oftentimes in the debate that's going on in our country. We can't hear the story from one another at the deeper level. We get caught in the politic of he's right or she's wrong or whatever it is, and we battle back and forth, and then we want to discredit them. We want to put them down. The same thing with people who are trying to make changes in a society. Look at Martin Luther King, how they tormented him. What did they do? They wanted to discredit him. And they had the various systems of our country actively seeking to do that. They wanted him to fail, to give up. And they made sure by trying to arrest him and beating him up and all kinds of things, even bombing his house. And then in their heart, they wanted to destroy him. They wanted to destroy him. So that's a concrete example. And look at today, what's going on between the different parties or different things that are going there. Look what happened when we try to somehow check out and see the credentials of a woman who wanted to become part of the Supreme Court. What do? We wanted a gotcha moment with her. We want to get her. We wanted to use her and manipulate for our own career, our own ability, what we want to get done. Instead of saying, let's really hear her out. Let us really understand and begin to see where she's coming as a justice to be able to bring that to the Supreme Court. So we don't look for the good. We don't look for the good. Because if we look for the good, then we could begin to handle in a much more gentle way the person's struggle. Because if we see a face, we take time to hear a story, we love one another, and then we see the person as they are, then all of a sudden empathy and compassion becomes our way of relating to the situation. And so therefore we say, let's begin to have conversations together much deeper. Let's begin to deal with the issue underneath so that we can come up and come together with our disagreements in a whole different way. I always say the most important thing in life is to basically what? Understand before you stand. Stand in what your person in front of you is dealing with and see where it's coming from, than judging it. And what Jesus said, go sin no more, he was basically saying, go love more. Because what is sin? Missing the mark of not loving. So he's basically saying loving, because you are important. I see you as an unbelievable woman that has potential, that in some way in your journey, it got sidetracked because of your own personal wounds. So my dear brothers and sisters, give up the gotcha moment. Begin to look for the good. Begin to see who they are, which means you got to take time. You got to take time to listen to the deeper stories, to begin to touch into the deeper rhythms. You got to take time to do that so that we do not fall trap into seeking out justice by punishing other people and saying they got to pay for that. What Jesus talked to us about and tried to express to us is the restorative movement of justice. As I listen, how do I heal? How do I save? How do I bring the person to a greater sense of the goodness within themselves, that God is within them, loving them, and bringing them to a greater freedom to live in ways they just can't even imagine. But it means that you have to willing to die to this instinct that if someone is threatening what I'm saying or doing, I got to come back and plot against them to make sure they don't make it happen. They fail. I got to disregard them or discredit them, and I also even have to destroy them. Thank you.